Greetings, Knights. Welcome to the multi-tiered Systems of Support presentation we put together for you. By the end of our time together, you should be able to reflect on your current understanding of MTSS, be able to identify the steps of the initial MTSS process at North Arvada, analyze your beginning questions about the process and confer with your team for deeper sense making. And if you still have lingering questions at the end of this presentation, you'll see this slide again at the end. And in the speaker notes of the slide deck, there'll be a link to a form where you can ask your questions, and we'll get back to you and answer them for you. That all being said, I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Benham, and he's going to take you through the next slide.
In a minute, you're going to be viewing a MTSS video that gives the background, history, and theory behind the MTSS process. But before we dive into that video, I would like you to access a KWL chart from the notes section of this slide deck. Make a copy for yourself and begin to reflect on what do you already know about MTSS and what do you want to know about MTSS. This will help get us in the right mindset before viewing this video to walk away with a deeper set of knowledge. Now that you have that chart pulled up and you've made a copy for yourself, I'm going to have you take 1 minute, fill it out, and then go ahead and watch this video.
Okay, so MTSS has undergone many iterations at North Arvada. It's shifted from being something that used to happen in isolation at the administrative level to a more collaborative, community-based process. Think about it as a blanket. We've been adding supports, not removing them, so students can move through the tiers, for instance, add a blanket or remove a blanket as necessary. Here we go with our universal supports for all students, Tier 1. So let's talk about targeted Tier 1 conversations. When we're using this template or process, a team member should always be reaching out to the family or the student to inform and partner with them. It's really important we also put this information into the campus contact log. This is Team MTSS Conversation Template, or the Google Sheet. It's also housed on the MTSS staff resource page. This conversation template will help your team determine concerns academically and behaviorally across the classrooms and identify what success looks like and what others have tried that may work or didn't work, and how that support or success is being monitored. The team will then revisit the targeted intervention, provided and measure its effectiveness and inform parents along the way. Remember, collaboration from team occurs every 2 weeks or so. An intervention lasts 4 to 6 weeks for a student. So here's an example of a targeted Tier 1, flexible seating, checking in at the beginning of a class, communication agreements, also nonverbal agreements. When the intervention is not teaching and the skill is lagging, the team completes and elevates to PST to bring more thought partners and data to the table based on the targeted process for Tier 1.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Here we are at Tier 2. Tier 2 is the targeted or a small group intervention, such as a check-in or check-out, point sheets, small groups based on skills or gaps in specific concepts. Think any extra dose of frequency, intensity, and duration of supports beyond direct instruction, and has been identified by using the Team MTSS collaborative process to determine the student or students being targeted for Tier 2 interventions. The problem-solving team will initiate the collaborative proactive solutions process. New to North Arvada and rooted in best practices, we will be learning and doing this together all year. Shifting the idea of underachieving to underserved. Think about statements such as, the student can't, or this student lacks the skill to, and flip it to something more intentional and positive, such as, the student can, and this student holds the ability to.
Now that you've finished watching the video, please also note that we have linked the MTSS slideshow as a resource for you to help you walk through the conversation that you'll be engaging with around the MTSS process at your first level.
Since many of you remember that when we started working in our professional learning communities with Dr. Thomas Manny, we had the phrases tight and loose, and we have adopted those phrases. We've really galvanized around them when we are doing our school-wide work at in many schools in Jeffco. MTSS here at North Arvada is no different, and what is tight or what is non-negotiable for all of our teams is to use the conversation format and the conversation template. This is used for discussion You are including all team members, and at this level, you are making family contact if you haven't already done so. What is also tight is the sharing the conversation with elective teachers and bringing them into the conversation when you do have a student that you are working through and discussing and having conversations about at that tier 1 level. The other piece that is tight is monitoring, making sure that the team is monitoring over that 4 to 6 week period before you are elevating to the collaborative proactive solutions team. Also tight, supporting teams in targeted tier 1 and tier 2 conversation processes. And that support will come from our MTSS committee. Thank you in advance. Also from that MTSS committee, they will help you assemble your family, the team members for the collaborative solutions process, and they will be your go-to as you move through that process as well. Loose, do you need to have them as your guided facilitators? No, you can. You can ask many people to help your team because sometimes it's hard to have the discussion and also facilitate. Those people that you can reach out to are the CEL, team members from the MTSS committee, our instructional coach, myself, APs, the principal. We're all available to help at those conversations at that level. The other thing that's loose is what time you will meet on Fridays. We do ask that you are at least 2 times a month going through this process, either initially with a student or reviewing. But when that happens, that's up to you. Discussion team members, also loose. There may be different people on that team depending on the student that you're discussing. You may have a counselor there. You may not. You likely will have the elective teacher there because they are invested in that team and that student. Those are the loose and the tights for our MTSS systems at North Arvada.
Justin, Elaine, and I are currently in the process of creating a visual aid to walk teams through the different parts of the MTSS process. You can use this snapshot here to guide you through part 1, which is the MTSS conversation. Notice number 4, it says the team uses the MTSS conversations spreadsheet. This spreadsheet provides the steps you can use to guide your first MTSS conversation around a student. We provided a model for you to use as a reference if you get stuck on any parts. Also, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Now you should be able to do the following. Reflect on your current understanding of MTSS. Be able to identify the steps of the initial MTSS process at North Arvada. Analyze your beginning questions about the process and confer with your team for deeper sense making. If you still have some lingering questions, make sure you click on the MTSS question form in the slide deck speaker notes. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.